Hi everyone, welcome to today's lesson on unit and metric conversions. In this lesson, we will start off by learning about the SI unit system, and then we will use this system to then do metric conversions. We'll start off this lesson by talking about SI units. SI units are base units that are used for measurements. And so below here, there's a table of the common kind of the base units that we use for different types of measurements. So for example, if we're measuring length, kind of the base unit to use or the kind of common unit to use is meter. And so the SI units really is a set of units that the scientists kind of around the world have decided that when I'm using when I'm measuring these quantities such as length, I want to be using meters, so that is it would be consistent among kind of the scientific community. And so if I'm measuring mass, then kind of the units that I want to use is going to be kilograms. For time, this is seconds. For amount of substance, or how much kind of atoms that I have or molecules that I have, I like to use, or not I like to use, but we like to use the unit moles. Now, moles is something that many of you haven't heard before, but that's something we're going to learn in Unit 1. For volume, the SI unit is liters. For temperature, this is Kelvin. For electric current, this is amperes or amps. And for luminous intensity, this is going to be candela. But for chemistry, kind of the more common ones are going to be kind of meters, kilograms, seconds, mole, liters, and Kelvin. And so these are the units that we'll see a lot more throughout AP Chemistry. Now, many other units are really just multiples of these base units, okay, other than kilogram. And they're really just a combination of prefixes. So for example, kilogram, if you kind of break apart its word, it's actually kilo, K, and then gram, which is G, okay, so or kg. Okay, so if I'm talking about centimeter, kind of like on our meter sticks, centimeter is really two parts. It's the centi, C, and then meter, M, okay, or cm. And so in these two examples, kind of the kilo and the centi, we call them prefixes because they're written before the base units. And depending on what prefix we have, we actually change the value of that base unit. And so let's take a look at some of these prefixes, the prefix symbol and its exponential value. So let's start with something that we know, kilo. So the symbol for kilo is K, and a kilo has a value of 10 to the power of 3, or 1,000. And that's why, in our everyday language, we know that, there are 1,000 grams in 1 kilogram, or there are 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. Okay, so kilo just means 1,000. Milli, that other one that I just mentioned, okay, that's M. This is 10 to the power of negative 3. Okay, or 0.001. So kilometer, that is 1,000 meters. If I have millimeter, right, that means I have 0.001 of a meter. And then we can kind of go back and forth, figuring out all these different values here. Centi, like centimeter. This is a value of 10 to the power of negative 2, or 0.01. Okay, so 1 centimeter is 0.01 meters. We have deci, like decimeter. This is 10 to the power of negative 1. Mega, 10 to the power of 6. So 1 megameter is 10 to the power of 6 meters. We have giga, which is 10 to the power of 9. We have tera, which is 10 to the power of 12. So 1 terameter is 10 to the power of 12 meters. Micro, 10 to the power of negative 6. Nano, 10 to the power of negative 9. Pico, 10 to the power of negative 12. And femto, 10 to the power of negative 15. So 1 femtometer is 10 to the power of negative 15 meters. So if I give you 5 kilograms in words, we can kind of convert that using kind of the prefix symbols and the unit symbols, and we can kind of figure out how much is at 5 kilograms. So 5 kilograms, we can write that as 5 kg. Okay, so that's with the prefix symbols and the unit symbols. And how much is 5 kg? Well, K, this is the same thing as 10 to the power of 3. So 5 kilograms is 5 times that value of K, which is 10 to the power of 3 grams. So if I have 5 kg, that means that is 5,000 grams. And same thing, 7 deciliter. This is the same as writing 7 dl. And how much is actually 7 dl? Well, 7 dl, d has the value of 10 to the power of -1. Okay, so 7 deciliter is 7 times 10 to the power of -1 liters. Let's go backwards. If I have 8 ms, what is 8 ms? Okay, so 8 ms, this is the same thing as 8. M is milli, S is seconds. Okay, so 8 ms is 8 milliseconds. Now, how much is actually 8 ms? Okay, we can do the same thing. That means this is 8 times the value of m, which is 10 to the power of -3 seconds. Okay, 4 nm, this is the same thing as 4 nanometers. How much is it worth? This is 4 times nano n. Its value is 10 to the power of -9 and then meters. And so one of the reasons why we want to learn about SI units and we want to learn about these prefixes and the values of these prefixes is so that it allows us to convert between the different units, right? So for example, if I'm measuring the distance from my house to the school, I might be using meters. I might be using kilometers, km. Okay, or I might be using different units, but I want to have a way to kind of convert between one or the other, right? Let's say I measured the distance from my house to the school using meter sticks. Okay, let's say it takes a whole day kind of lining up these meter sticks from my house to the school. But it might be easier for me to represent that number in kilometers. So after I measured it out in meters, I need to find a way to convert that to kilometers. And so the next part of the lesson is on metric conversions. Metric conversions involve using unit conversions between these prefix symbols and exponential values. So let's take a look. What is a conversion statement between centimeter and meter? Okay, so centimeter, when I look at it, okay, how is it compared to a meter? Okay, now a centimeter is obviously not a meter. These are different units. Okay, but a centimeter, cm, okay, this is the equivalent of 10 to the power of -2 m's. And so this is what I call a conversion statement where I have cm and then I equate that to just kind of my base unit in meters with the correct exponential values. Now in math, we often like to write our conversion statement as a fraction. So I can kind of convert this to, in 1 cm, there are 10 to the power of -2 meters. Okay, now these two are the same because am I looking at the top and the bottom? On the top, I have c. On the bottom, I have an equivalent of c, 10 to the power of -2. On the top, I have the units m, and then on the bottom, I have the units m as well. So this is a nice conversion statement. I didn't change the value of anything, but this is telling me that in 1 centimeter, I have 10 to the power of -2 meters. Or I can flip this around and say, in 10 to the power of -2 meters, okay, that is 1 centimeter. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you put the centimeters on the top or the centimeters on the bottom. These conversion statements mean the same thing. Either, in 10 to the power of -2 meters, that is defined as 1 centimeter, or if I have 1 centimeters, that is 10 to the power of -2 meters. And let's take a look at another statement here. This is between ms and s. Okay, so I can say, well, millisecond, Okay, this is the same thing as 10 to the power of negative 3 seconds, right? The m and the negative 3 are of equivalent value, and then I have an s and an s for my units. Or I can say 10 to the power of negative 3 seconds in 1 millisecond. Okay, once again, whether it's the top or bottom, that doesn't matter as much because the values are the same. Okay, so how many meters are in 12 kilometers? Now I start with this easy example, and then a lot of us, we can do mental math and we go, okay, well, if I have 12 kilometers, I have, 12 times 1,000, 12,000 meters. Okay, but this is an easy example. It gets harder and harder when the values are different, when the units, we're unfamiliar with the units. So if I'm going to find the meters in 12 kilometers, the proper way to set this equation up is to always start with what value you're looking for. So if this question is asking me to find meters in kilometers, okay, I'm looking for meters. So I'm going to start with meters equal. Okay, meters equal, and the starting value that I'm given in this question is 12 kilometers. Okay, so I'm trying to find meters. So meters equal, my starting value is 12 kilometers. And so if I want to convert from kilometers to meters, right? Let's take a look at a conversion statements. I can say that in 1 kilometer, I have 10 to the power of 3 meters. Or I can say, if I have 10 to the power of 3 meters, that is 1 kilometer. So I have this conversion statement, and these conversion statements allows me to kind of play between the two different units, either kilometers or meters. But I need to pick which conversion statement I use. Do I pick the one with kilometers on top, or do I pick the one with the kilometers at the bottom? And so one of the key thing here is that whatever unit you want to convert into, you want that to be at the top. The units that you don't want, okay, that you want to get rid of or get out of, that's going to be at the bottom. So in this question, I have 12 kilometers as my starting value, but I'm trying to find meters. That's what I'm trying to go into. So I'm going to pick the conversion statement that has meters on top. Okay, so 12 kilometers times 10 to the power of 3 meters over kilometers. And the reason why I want to do that is because, like in fractions, I can cancel out terms, I can cancel out my units. So the fact that I have kilometers diagonal to each other in kind of the multiplying of fractions, they cancel out. And if they cancel out, on the top, there's only one unit left, and that is meters, and this is what I want. Okay, so if I do the math, 12 times 10 to the power of 3, okay, punch that into the calculator, okay, I get 12,000, or your calculator might simplify that to 1.2 times 10 to the power of 4 meters. And so that is kind of the proper way to convert between different units. Okay, so that's an easier example, but sometimes we get kind of more complicated questions where we have to convert between different prefixes. Like what if instead of the question asking us to find meters in 12 kilometers, it was asking us to find centimeters in 12 kilometers? Or what if it's asking us to find nanometers in 12 kilometers? And so this roadmap here is quite useful. If I wanted to go from, let's say, kilometers to megameters, okay, this roadmap here that we're going to fill in will tell us exactly how to do that. Okay, so let's fill in all these small bubbles with the different types of prefixes that we have. We have tera, giga, mega, kilo, deci, centi, milli, micro, nano, pico, and femto. Okay, and then we're going to connect all these smaller bubbles to the base unit bubble. And we do that because for this roadmap, if we wanted to go from kilo to mega, there's no direct path for us to go from kilo to mega. We have to go from kilo to the base unit, and then once we convert to the base unit, then we convert to mega. Okay, so this roadmap here is really just a reminder that if you're trying to convert between two different prefixes, you want to convert out from the first prefix into just the base unit and then go from the base unit to the prefix that you want. And so let's take a look at an example. So we're going to express 8 kilograms in milligrams. Okay, so for this example here, I'm trying to go from kilograms to milligrams. Okay, now if you look at this chart here, you'll notice that, okay, well, I have kilograms, which is right here. This is where I am. And I'm trying to go to milligrams, but there's no direct flight or no direct path from kilo to milli. So we have to go from kilograms to the base unit, so just grams, and then grams to milligrams. So I'm going to readjust kind of my roadmap here. I'm going to try to go from kilograms to grams, and then from grams to milligram. So let's do that. Okay, always start with what we're looking for. So mg equals. Then we put down our starting value. So this is 8 kilograms or 8 kg. Okay, so the first step here, we're going to go from kilograms to grams. And so the conversion factor that I'm going to use is going to be between kilograms and grams. Once again, the units that you don't want, we put that at the bottom, and the units that we want is going to be at the top. So we only want grams, we don't want kilograms. Okay, and so in writing this conversion statement, once again, we have to make sure it balances out the top and the bottom, right? So I have a G unit on the top and the bottom. I have a K for kilo at the bottom. So I need to put in the equivalent value of K, 10 to the power 3 at the top. Okay, and once again, I can check my conversion factors. I have a 10 to the power 3 at the top and its equivalent value or symbol down below. I have a G on the top, G down below, so I know I'm fine. Okay, so by putting this conversion statement in, I convert out from kilograms and I'm left with grams. Good, that's the first step. But I now want to go from grams to milligrams. And so once again, we're going to put in a conversion statement, and the units that we want, milligrams, will be on the top, and the units that we don't want, grams, will be down below. Once again, we're going to fill in the equivalent values. I have an M for milli on the top, so I need a 10 to the power of negative 3 down below to balance it out. Double check, I have an M and a 10 to the power of negative 3. I have a G on the top and G on the bottom. Okay, and so by putting that in, we cross out the units for G, and we're left behind with mg, and this corresponds to the milligrams that I'm trying to convert to. And so the next step, we're just going to put this into the calculator. 8 times brackets 10 to the power of 3, close brackets, times 1 over, or you can go divided by bracket 10 to the power of negative 3, close bracket. Okay, so if you punch it into the calculator and you did it correctly, you should get 8 times 10 to the power of 6, okay, the units milligram. Okay. Let's take a look at another example here. Express 5 megagrams in centigrams. So if you look at our kind of row map, we can't go from megagrams to centigrams directly, but what we can do is go from megagrams to grams, and then grams to centigrams. Okay, units that we want always goes at the beginning. So centigrams equal, this is going to be 5 megagrams. We're going to put in our first conversion statement. The units that you don't want goes at the bottom. The ones that you want goes on the top. Make sure that we have the top and bottom balanced out in its value. I have a M for mega at the bottom, so I'm going to put the equivalent value of 10 to the power 6 on the top. Okay, megas cancel out. Next conversion statement is to go from grams to centigrams. So I'm going to put centigrams on the top. Grams I don't want at the bottom. I'm going to make sure I have equivalent values filled in. Okay, grams cancel out, and I'm left behind with centigram and centigram, which is what I want. Okay, so if you put this into the calculator, if you did it correctly, you should get 5 times 10 to the power of 8 centigrams. And so if it's not coming out right on your calculator, do check your calculator to make sure you're putting enough brackets. Sometimes the calculator isn't smart enough to kind of fully understand what we're trying to do. And so for unit conversion, there's two kind of really key points that I want to summarize. So key point one is, how do we know which number is on the top? Like which unit do we have on the top and which one do we have at the bottom? And so the number with the unit that you want to convert into will always be at the top. Okay, so the one that you want, the unit that you want, okay, will always be at the top. Okay, and we put the units that we're converting from at the bottom. Okay, the ones that we don't want, okay, that will be in the bottom so that we can cancel out those units. Okay, so key point one and key point two is something that we've been doing for the past two examples. And so with these two key points, let's take a look at the following conversion questions. Okay, so go ahead and try this, and if you're comfortable, then obviously work at your own pace, and then if you want to double check, then you can look back into this video and kind of try to see where you made a mistake or kind of what you're doing is correct. Okay, so I am going from liters into microliters, so my microliters will be at the top, or my microliters will be at the beginning. Okay, so microliters equals my starting value, 2 liters, multiplied by my conversion statement. Microliters is the equivalent of 10 to the power negative 6 liters. Do a little of calculator work, and that comes out as 2 times 10 to the power of 6 microliters. Okay, 1 nanosecond into seconds. I'm trying to find seconds, so seconds equal 1 nanosecond. Put in my conversion factors. One times 10 to the power of negative 9 seconds. C, 25 kg into G. Okay, so grams equals my starting value, 25 kg. Okay, I'm trying to get out from kg into G. The equivalent of K is 10 to the power of 3. So this is 2.5 times 10 to the power of 4 grams. D here, I have 51 megagrams going into milligrams. Okay, so now we have kind of two prefixes. We have a megagram and we have a milligram. So just a reminder that there's no direct path between megagram and milligram. So we're going to go from megagrams to the base unit grams, and from grams to milligrams. So mg equals 51 megagram. Let's get out from megagrams into grams. And then now that we're in grams, we want to get out from grams into milligrams. Okay, put it into the calculator, compute it, then you're going to get 5.1 times 10 to the power of 9 milligrams. Nope, 5.1 times 10 to the power of 10 milligrams. This time we're gonna try to convert into nanometers, starting with 752 centimeters. So we don't want centimeters. We want to get out from centimeters to convert into normal meters. The equivalent value is 10 to the power of negative 2. Then we want to get out from meters and go into nanometers. And the equivalent value of nano is 10 to the power of negative 9. So we can put that into the calculator. And we should get 7.52 times 10 to the power of 9 nanometers. Hold on, let me double check. So we have 752 times 10 to the power of negative 2. And then divided by 10 to the power of negative 9. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, 7.52 times 10 to the power of 9. Okay. next one here. So here we're trying to go, oh, this sounds a little bit different. We have kind of units at the top and the bottom, units in the denominator and numerator. So we're trying to go into nanograms per kiloliters from 1 milligram per deciliter. Okay, so same thing here. It looks like we have units at the top and bottom, but we're going to take this kind of one step at a time, and let's just focus on the units at the top first. So if I'm looking at the units at the top, I'm trying to go from milligrams into nanograms. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to go from milligrams. I want to get out from milligrams to grams, equivalent value. Then I'm going to go from grams to nanograms, equivalent value. Okay, and so by doing that, when the milligrams cancel out and the grams cancel out, at the top, this is perfect. I have nanograms, which is what I want. Now, if I look at the bottom, I want something different, right? I'm starting with deciliter, but I want to end up with kiloliters. So since deciliter is in the denominator, in the bottom half of the fraction, we're going to do everything the opposite. So the units that I want, since it's at the bottom, that means the units that I want will be at the bottom, and the units that I don't want will be diagonal or at the top. So I'm trying to get out of deciliter and going into kiloliters. So I don't want deciliter, so this time deciliter will be at the top, normal liters will be at the bottom. Okay, so it's flipped, it's upside down. Equivalent value. Okay. This allows me to cancel out deciliters. And then I want to go from liters to kiloliters. I don't want liters. So liters is going to be at the top, my equivalent value. And that allows me to cancel out the liters. So at the bottom, my units is kiloliters. Okay, so that's satisfying kind of the units, and my conversions should be correct. Then all I need to do is put this into the calculator. Okay, so putting that into the calculator, I have 1 times 10 to the power of negative 3 times 10 to the power of 3 divided by 10 to the power of negative 1 divided by 10 to the power of negative 9. And that is 1 times 10 to the power of 10 nanograms per kiloliters. Okay, so we have another question that's quite similar. I am trying to go into kilograms from megaliters. Sorry, I'm trying to go into kilograms per megaliters from 2.5 centigrams over milliliters. So let's take a look at the top again. I'm trying to go from centigram to, let me change color. Trying to go from centigrams to kilograms. So I'm going to start off by getting rid of centigrams, going into grams, equivalent value. Then I'm going to get out from grams and go into kilograms. Okay, equivalent value. That allows me to kind of cancel out these units. At the top, I'm left with kilograms, so I'm happy. Now in the bottom, I'm trying to go from milliliters to megaliters. So once again, everything's flipped now. So the units I don't want will be at the top. The units that I want will be at the bottom. Equivalent value. Then I am going to get rid of liters and go into megaliters. And then equivalent value. That allows me to cancel out my units so that at the bottom I am left behind or left with megaliters, which is what I want. I'm going to plug this into the calculator. Okay, divided by 10 to the power of 3, divided by 10 to the power of negative 3, and then I get 2.5 times 10 to the power of 4 kilograms per megaliter. As always, please make sure you try the fun sheets and then check your answers with the fun sheets, and then email me if there are any errors or if you have any questions. See you all next time.